really amazing. So that led me down a corridor. So anyways, raw living food. What is going on here? What's going on with plant-based raw food? Well, one of the things that I love to bring up about this is that there's something called Kirlian photography. And as soon as Rob comes back, we'll be able to display some of those pictures that we pulled out for you. And basically what it is a type of photography or videography now that was developed in the 1930s by a man named Samuel Kirlian. And this guy basically figured out how to photograph living organisms or objects to show the electromagnetic emissions that are pulsating out of those. Right? So if you take a photograph of like a bird or your hand, they've done studies where they've been able to show the difference between someone who eats a dominantly cooked food and processed diet and someone who's a raw food eater. And if that's crazy, it's like, whoa, okay, you can see the difference. And then they've done all kinds of photography on all kinds of food, right? And we'll put up some of those for you when they run back. That was the first thing, though, that showed up for me, because the thing about our culture, the way we're psychologically programmed, is that we need, the metaphysical rule is that if you believe it, then you'll see it, right? But we don't work that way. We have to see it in order to believe it. That's why we have the situation that we do now. Because we're so out of like an enchanted reality. We're disenchanted, essentially. We don't believe in magic. It's not real. It's hocus pocus. Essentially, it's a hallucination. Right? Interesting what changes when you start to get into this kind of thing is that whole disenchanted reality starts to shift out. You start to realize the nuances and the subtleties that are permeating, in what some scientists might call like the morphogenic resonance field or the unified field. If you've done maybe certain type of plant medicine, you might have more of a visual reference for what I'm talking about. Not that anyone's like that. So yeah, let's throw up the curves and Kirlian photography.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Totally, yeah. If we can pull up some of those at some point, that would be amazing. But this is a great example. An organic mushroom versus a commercially grown mushroom. Right? These are both raw. You can see that the commercially grown mushroom still has some vitality, still has some life force in it, right? But the difference is pretty obvious, right? The whole argument about organic, is organic really worth it? I mean, geez, like people come to me sometimes, rarely, and they're like, is it really worth the extra 50 cents or $1 to purchase organic? It's like, geez, like, I mean, if that's the case, it's like, I don't have anything for you. I can't actually help you until you can get past that barrier, right? And that's why I just bring this up now. It's like, forget it, I don't need to convince anybody of anything, because now we can see it, right? Let's pull up another one. Do we have the cooked food one? I think I put one of those in there.
Yeah, cooked cabbage and live cabbage.
Yeah, let's do that one. That's perfect. Okay, this is actually one of the things that really like stimulated my mind in the beginning. This is something that like it was an aha moment for me, is that the difference between cooked food, or say in this example, a cooked cabbage and a living cabbage, right? Completely in its raw form. I mean, again, the example is pretty obvious. I want to go into a little more detail on this though. This right here, this what's called like an electromagnetic emission or energy or life force. What is that really? Some people think it's the minerals, some people think it's the enzymes. I would assume that it's probably a combination of both. That's an area that I would love to dive into about nutrition, and what I think in this conversation is the most powerful, because on the flyer it said beauty, nutrition, vitality, and longevity, right? That's what we were here to talk about, and that's one of the main things that we want to really elaborate on, is that everything that we're talking about is a translation into experiencing more of that, more beautification. when you adopt a diet that's rich in minerals, you will start to express beauty characteristics. The way that the collagen proteins are formed in the skin and the elastin in your connective tissue is based on the right assortment and the diverse spectrum of minerals. And having those minerals in their right assortment to build out the constructive factors of your body, right? The twinkle in the eye. There's a certain mineral in particular that creates that in your nails and the glow in the skin, right? There's specific minerals that actually catalyze the beautification of the human body. Not to mention the radiance of the personality. Is it possible that your personality can be affected by what you put into your mouth? Who's had that experience? Right? And people will be like, well, my grandfather lived to be, 80 or 90. He ate whatever. He ate canned, beans and whatever. All his life, smoked all his life, drank Jack Daniels and everything. It's like, well, that's an anomaly. That's great. And also, I'm willing to bet underneath the surface, there were certain dissonances there in the personality. Even if somebody is very vibrant, they have that essence about them. That's not even the point. It's not a bipartisan argument, right? What it's ultimately about is expressing more of our human potential. You got a great attitude, you feel great about life, fantastic. How about we magnify that a little bit? How about we amplify that a little bit? How about we reach more of our Creator's intent, which is more of a longer life, healthier and more vibrant and vital all the days of our life, right? How about that one? So this is great. So this is all a lot of great examples here. A sprout, a single sprout right there. The incredible emissions, the electricity essentially that's coming out of that. That cacao picture is one little dab of cacao powder. That's incredible. Which actually tells me that that's minerals. That's based on minerals. That's powder. One thing about cacao is that it's one of the most concentrated sources of very specific minerals that are biological catalysts for human function, specifically the cardiovascular system. Magnesium being the primary one. So that's what that tells me. Like let's go back to that real quickly. That's probably that to me is that's magnesium, chromium, maybe iron, something like that. But that's basically facilitated by minerals. Organic mushroom commercial, so on and so forth. You guys get the point, right? It's pretty obvious. So let's move on into the segue here. I want to talk about two primary subjects of importance when it comes to all of nutrition, which is enzymes and minerals. To me, these are the two dominating focuses that I have, and I keep coming back to it. It keeps getting more and more whoa, this keeps getting crazier the more I go down the rabbit hole of this. Let's talk about minerals first. What are minerals, right? Are minerals just a subset of vitamins or something? In my experience and observation, vitamins are vastly less important than minerals. And if you eat a very diverse array of colorful foods, right? Hitting every color on the color wheel. Your red, your blue, your white, green, purple, yellow, red, violet, indigo. Hitting all the spectrums on the color wheel, not only are you getting a diverse and most of the vitamins that you would need to accrue from any kind of nutritional perspective, you're also getting color pigments that now recent research is actually showing us that each pigment, each color that gives a tomato its red, otherwise known as lycopene, that lycopene has a molecular shape, or that color, I should say, has a specific molecular arrangement. It's not just so much that, it's a color pigment, or it's it's a shade of color that blankets the food or some nonsense. It's actually that's part of its molecular structure. So when you look at red foods, lycopene comes up strongly. watermelons, tomatoes, for example, right? And green, what's the pigment of green? It's primarily chlorophyll, right? The number one blood cleanser of anything is chlorophyll. 45% of your blood plasma is identical to chlorophyll. What's chlorophyll? It's the non-heme fluid or blood of plants, the plant blood, basically, right? And the central molecule in chlorophyll, the central molecule in chlorophyll is magnesium. This is a really interesting side note here, is that when you ingest high amounts of chlorophyll, what appears to be happening is that the central molecule in your blood is iron, right? Well, what ends up happening is that through some kind of biological enzymatic process I don't really totally understand, I don't really care to, the magnesium pops out of the chlorophyll and like replaces the iron basically in your blood. If you need magnesium, which most people do, as 95% of the Western population is deficient in magnesium. 100% of heart disease, by the way, they found out 100% of the time has a magnesium deficiency associated with it. And you know what else is really ironic about that? In the same sentence, there's always an excess of calcium. Cardiologists are now using a new type of scan to identify biomarkers for heart disease. There's something called homocysteine, which is related to like B vitamins and vitamin B12, which is a whole other thing. But there's an interesting thing that comes up is that they use coronary calcium scans. And this has been a huge focus for me over the years is calcification.